Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest introduced to you now. Holly Smith is a carnivore diet enthusiast and content creator who posts her incredible carnivore meals and recipes on social media. She came highly recommended to be hosted on our podcast from our former guest, Stephen T., who we hosted on episode 779 of Boundless Body Radio. We also recently released the episode where he hosted me on his YouTube channel called Find Your Keto, which was released on episode 793 of our show. Stephen and Holly have become close friends, and she is one of 4 people, including Stephen, who participate in an intimate Discord group where they interact daily and do keto, carnivore, and fasting challenges together. Holly has a small shop on RedBubble at carnivorefriend.redbubble.com, where she creates and sells carnivore and keto designs on shirts, mugs, stickers, etc., which are fantastic and very well done. You can find her primarily on Twitter at carnivorefriend, where she has almost 7,800 followers. On Instagram at Friendly Neighborhood Carnivore, where she just has over 1,200 followers, and also her newly started YouTube channel at Friendly Neighborhood Carnivore, where you can watch videos featuring more of her delicious recipes. Holly Smith, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I love your handles, by the way. Great job picking those. It definitely has like a Mr. Rogers Neighborhood type vibe, which is one of my favorite shows growing up. We're just about the same age. So I absolutely love the handles. What inspired you to choose those names?
That was something I was stuck on for a while when I decided to do this whole social media thing. I was like, what is it going to be? It's got to be something decent, something that like feels good and that I like. And I go out for a walk every single day in my neighborhood. And one day I was out in the middle of it and I was like, well, I'm your friendly neighborhood carnivore. That's what I am. So that's what I went with. And then when I got to the other social media that needed a shorter handle, it just ended up getting shortened to Carnivore Friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I really enjoy that. Comparing that to other communities that for surely you must have been a part of in your life, maybe groups, interests, whatever. How have you found the carnivore community to be as far as like friendliness goes?
The thing that I love most is that everybody tends to have this. We're all in different parts of the world. We all have very vastly different lives, but we all have this one thing in common. And you would think it would just be the food, but it's a mindset. We are all very eager to get more information. We're all very eager to question what's going on in the world and just to have more knowledge. And we like to share what we learn with each other. We like to give feedback and we like to encourage each other. And it's just been the most amazing, uplifting community I've ever been a part of.
That's awesome. Wow. Really well said. You and I were talking offline before this got started and talking about different conferences and meetups and different things that are out there. And you have yet to go to one, which I'm kind of jealous about. Like it's like when somebody tells me that they haven't watched Schitt's Creek yet or something, like I'm always so jealous. Like if I could go back and rewatch it again for the first time, like when you get into a room with people like you're describing that have most of them have suffered from serious health issues. They're all now like ketogenic, and so they're operating on this really high energy level regardless of the things they're talking about, which is all amazing stuff and latest research. Like you get a bunch of those people in the same room, the energy is just off the charts. It's something you absolutely have to experience at some point.
I can only imagine because I know how I feel talking to these people, where I'm not there face to face. So I cannot even imagine how much more amazing it would feel to be in the same room and really like feel the energy of everyone. And yes, I'm very excited one day to experience that for the first time. I know that's going to be one of those unforgettable moments.
It's really amazing. The first, I guess it was the second time I went to low carb Denver. You're brushing elbows with Dr. Bill Schindler and Dr. Chafee was the first time I got to meet him. And it's really wonderful. And I also meet this other guy. He's in his 60s and he's clearly not like super metabolically healthy at that point in his life. And you get talking to him and he's like, he just had a heart attack a year ago, learned about low carbohydrate from Dr. Berry. And he's on this journey. He'd already lost 60 pounds and he wasn't there yet, but he was there participating in low carb Denver. And it's like, it's so cool to meet all of your heroes and the people that we follow, but also to find everyday people, regardless of whatever stage they're in. It's really super inspiring to go to some of those things.
Yeah, I believe that because I think about, when we're we're in the space on social media and we're seeing, all the people that have been doing this for years and they're looking amazing. And you're like, yes. And you kind of almost have that mentality before going into a deep dive of it of it's what it's like going into the gym for the first time and you've got all the buff people over here and you're intimidated and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle being around these people. But then you realize like, no, we've got all these other people here that are just getting started and they haven't, had these big transformations yet, but they're in the middle of it. They're changing and they're feeling it and they're getting out there. And it's so incredible to have that same level of intimacy with the people that have been in this for years and the people that just started yesterday. We're all in it together and there to support each other. So definitely, yes.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. What a great analogy of the gym. It reminds me of a Jim Gaffigan bit where he's like, why do buff people go to the gym? Like, you guys are done. You don't need to go here. This is for the other people. Yeah, no, that is a really good point. I felt bad for like making a judgment about him before I even heard his story, but it's cool that we have influencers out there that are sharing the message and it's so powerful. And it's definitely something that you're doing. And so before we get into your story of health, which is quite interesting, can you tell us why it's so important for you to share this message and get this message out on so many different platforms as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm one of those people that didn't realize I had health issues, so to speak, until I was told I need to change something in my diet. And then once I turned my life around, I realized there were a lot of things that were problems that I had no idea were issues. And once you get to the point that you feel so much better, you want other people to feel better too. You want them to realize, like, I know you're living day to day and you think you feel fine, but you can feel better. Like, there's a way to feel better than you do now. And it's just such an incredible feeling to have good health compared to what I thought was good health. And then going further with being in the carnivore space, I've been carnivore for a couple of years and I've gone through lots of different phases of what I've been eating. And I had to cut dairy out. And that was a hard challenge to be able to cut, you know, big things that a lot of carnivores really lean on is the cheeses and the milk and heavy cream and all that stuff. And to make a transition like that, and there's not many avenues to go down to find recipes that, not that they're the same as what you would have had, but that are kind of give you that same kind of comfort and like a little crutch to lean on when you're just feeling left out. These people over here get this kind of treat, and it's like, man, I wish I could have that. So I've been enjoying making recipes, for things like that, that it's like, well, I can't have a chaffle anymore, but oh, I found a way to make, a waffle that doesn't have any cheese in it. And I can use that. I found a way to make an egg shake and it's very similar to a milkshake. So, whenever I see other people getting to have those moments of like, oh, they're celebrating and they have their special treat. Well, I want to be able to have something special too. And I think there's other people out there that want that too. So that's why I feel it's important.
I love that. No, it's so important. I hate pointing out to some people that dairy can be problematic. When people have already like started carnivore, they're already restricting so much and feeling like everybody else can eat all kinds of stuff, and I can't. And then, yeah, I never start. I've talked about this recently. I never start with cutting out dairy, but for some people, they get to a point where that is something they need to address. And again, I feel terrible about it because people love cream in their coffee. You know what I mean? Like if nothing else, or the cheese has a bit of that kind of addictiveness. And I hate it. I hate telling people that that may be something they won't want to look at. I never tell somebody that they have to do something or not. It's just something they should look at. But it's so tough when people already feel restricted and they need to start addressing dairy because cream is problematic for them, or they're having way more of it than they think. There's way too many coffees with a lot more cream than people think.
I agree with that. The coffee definitely can get away from people. They think they're just putting a little cream, and then before they know it, it's like a half a cup of heavy cream and then a little splash of coffee in it. And you're not really drinking coffee, you're just having a cup of cream.
Yeah, totally, totally. I find that happens more often than not. And the thing that I love about the interview that you did with Stephen T, which we mentioned in the introduction, is you guys talked about some of those things and talked about all of this restriction that we have, and we can't eat these things, and woe is us, and this sucks, and all this stuff. But you take a different approach where you say, like, look, I feel so good. I know what things cause me difficulties, and I've identified them, and now I feel so great. You're actually very grateful for that knowledge, which I absolutely love that attitude.
Yeah, I'm actually, I feel like it's been a big eye-opening moment in my life to realize that there are things that I absolutely cannot have. I just can't. They make me feel miserable. It's back to me feeling like a sick person that can't function again. And it's before going keto and transitioning into carnivore, I used to look at these things like, for instance, I had to take out dairy back then. And it was one of those things when I had the dairy out, I would question myself and be like, I could eat this. I'm gonna feel miserable, but is it worth it? And I would make that decision and be like, it's totally worth it. I'm gonna have it and I'm gonna feel like crap, but it's gonna be great. And now I don't know, maybe it's a curse that I feel better and can see how horrible it was now, but now I learned throughout all those years of experimenting that I can't handle gluten at all. And gluten, if I brought dairy in, it was a day of misery. It was a couple of hours or a good solid day of misery. If I brought gluten in, it was a good several days of absolute agony. And then it would be followed by a whole month of like joint pain and all kinds of things like that. So it was a very prolonged experience. And so as I had these things and taken them out and tried to bring them back, and I've really learned how my body reacts to it. And I'm at a point where I'm very grateful to say, I cannot have dairy in my life. I cannot have gluten at all. Like that is a hard no. I cannot have the seed oils. Those make me feel like trash. The seed oils, I realized were giving me some of the other issues that I thought were contributed to the dairy and the gluten. And then once I got those out, the rest of that wiped out. So I just went on a cruise with my family. And when I went, I took a card, like an allergy card with me, and it said, I have an allergy to gluten. I have an allergy to all dairy from a cow, all dairy from a cow, with the exception of butter and seed oils. And I listed out a million names of seed oils. I listed out a million names of what gluten can be hidden under. I did all these things. And I was able to very safely travel and eat, and I enjoyed everything, and I didn't feel bad from what I was eating. There's a time in my life that I would have been too embarrassed to tell somebody I cannot eat these things. There's a time in my life that I would have thought, maybe it's okay. I'm just going to eat it and suck it up. And if I feel like garbage, I feel like garbage. But how awful to spend a whole week on vacation and feel like trash the whole time. So I'm very grateful that I know these things, and it makes it a hard no for me. I can very clearly draw that line and not cross it because I'm going that extra step to say, like I'm telling the staff, do not let me have this. Like it's not an option. And they know like I'm serious. They're making sure that it's not getting in there. And without that, I think the challenge of seeing it and not being able to say no, it would be a lot greater had I not realized like how hard these things are on me.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you shouldn't have to go to those lengths. Like we would wish that those foods weren't in our diets anyway for most people. But you make such a good point. I'll always remember a vacation that we took when we were explaining to some friends that we hadn't seen in a long time. We do this weird diet. Don't worry about us. We're just going to buy our own food and we'll cook. And just it's not a big deal. And of course, it comes up and becomes a big deal. But like the way my wife explained it to her friend is she just said, like, look, I haven't seen you in several years. I don't know when we're coming back. I don't want to spend my time with you feeling miserable, because I will if I eat the normal things that other people eat. And so putting it in that perspective is like, yeah, you want to go on this cruise and you want to enjoy your time and you want to make memories and not be thinking about food. If nothing else, like you can skip breakfast and skip lunch and enjoy other activities versus just having everything food centric. So I think that's a really good way to approach it.
Yeah, it worked out really well. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, my family, they eat more keto. My husband stays pretty keto, but he doesn't have he doesn't recognize that he has the issues with some things. And so he'll sway and go off and do other things. And my kids at home, they're keto. I let them eat other stuff once they're, outside of the house, but at home they're keto. And so all three of them recognized on that vacation, oh, we're in the bathroom a lot more than usual. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'm not having to do all that, because that's not where I want to spend my time. I want to spend it having fun.
Totally. Yeah, I don't miss any of that.
No.
Let's talk about your story through health. And I think you can be forgiven for not realizing what you had gone through was not normal, because your health issues started at a very young age. So yeah, can you talk to us about some of the health issues you were experiencing growing up?
Yeah, definitely. So, my earliest issue started, I think I was around 4 or 5, and it was skin issues. It was like this flakiness that would happen right up underneath my nose. My ears would crack and bleed. And then a few years into that, my scalp started getting really scaly and flaky. And of course, it would bleed too. And I went to a dermatologist over the years, and they would come up with some things that would kind of relieve it here and there. I was able to get rid of the flakiness on my face. I don't remember if I had it for maybe it probably was about a year. I really feel like those are my kindergarten memories, was having that on my face. But I don't really remember it after that. But my ear and my scalp have been an issue my entire life, the entire time. And then I started having digestive issues around, oh, I can't really remember. I didn't look over my notes before we started. I want to say it was around like 9 or 10. I started having like stomach troubles, and I just thought it was like normal stomach stuff. But it wasn't until I was a young teenager, probably around 13, 14, 15, that I really started getting these like serious, serious stomach issues. I mean, I was just in complete agony. I remember Friday nights. I don't know if this was for all families, but I feel like Friday night is kind of a pizza night. Like, it's the end of the week. Your parents are tired. They don't want to cook. It's the weekend. We're going to just hit it off with ordering a pizza. So I remember, we didn't do that all the time, but I remember multiple, Friday nights, it being pizza night, and laying on the floor and just writhing in pain afterwards, just thinking like, this hurts so much. Like, I felt like somebody was standing on my stomach with like a stiletto heel, just like pressing down. I mean,
Wow.
it was just the worst. And I was a young teenager. I wanted to go out and have fun and play and do, and everyone else eats a bunch of stuff, and you don't realize it's what you're eating. And you think back and you're like, well, I felt miserable every time I ate pizza. Maybe it's something on the pizza. Well, there was gluten in that pizza. There was dairy on that pizza. There was probably seed oils in that pizza, but I didn't make any connection to that. And it wasn't until I was in college and I was on my own. I was learning how to cook, but again, I'm cooking with seed oils. I'm using dairy. I always have. I have gluten. Like, it hasn't been a thing I've ever tried to avoid. And my issue started getting worse and worse and worse. And I was getting a lot of acid reflux with the even more severe stomach pains than I was having before. And then the stomach cramping that I would get, I would also get like it it would come with um a cross of constipation and then diarrhea. So I would have like horrible, horrible gas pains, like the worst I've ever had. I would be constipated and just praying to get the diarrhea, because I know if the diarrhea came, everything would finally like rid itself out of my body and I'd be okay again. And so, years of that went by, and I'm at the end of my college years, and I get engaged, and it's like none of this is clearing up, and I'm thinking I probably should go see a doctor. Like, it's the time. And so I go, and I don't remember what type of doctor it was, like a gastroenterologist or something like that. And I went and I saw them, and they said, well, this is really common for young women. You're probably really highly stressed. You're engaged. You're planning a wedding. You're finishing up school. And I'm like, I've been going through this for years, years and years and years. This is not stress. Like, there is something more. And so he's like, well, I think you have irritable bowel syndrome. I'm going to give you this list of foods to avoid. And, you can look at this list and you can just kind of go down it and see if these things are affecting you, try to avoid them. But if you eat them, see if you feel bad when you eat them. And so that was my first moment of it's something you're eating possibly that's messing you up, which would make a lot of sense. But I was not ready to hear that. I was in the state of mind of how dare you try to take my foods from me? Like, I love my food. Like, don't take it. I want to be able to have like all the things I had. So I look at this list and I'm like, okay, it's telling me bananas are hard on my stomach. Okay. It's telling me iceberg lettuce is probably hard on my stomach. Okay. I do eat a lot of salads. It's telling me, dairy is probably not great for you. So switch to, the non-dairy milks and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And so I'm going down this list and I'm cutting these things out and I'm making these changes. And so I did cut out the dairy. And if I didn't cut out dairy, because there were times where I would try to have the dairy anyways, and I would take these lactate pills to try to help, digest it. And they helped. I mean, they also caused their own amount of pain because you have to take so many before your body has a nice buildup to it. And those were some serious stomach aches that came with that too. And that was rough. But I started cutting these things out and I thought I was feeling a little bit better. But when I started cutting these things out, I started cutting out some meats because, they tell you meat's not healthy for you and all this. So if I'm making healthier choices by cutting these other things out that don't feel good, let's go ahead and try some of these, veggie patties and veggie sausages and, leaner cuts like turkey bacon and things like this. And I really wish I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole or if I had, like, I wish I had done some research, but there might not have been much information at that time. I don't know, but I could have saved myself, I think, a lot more pain had I just, not done that. But that went on for a while. And eventually, because I did still have stomach issues, after all these years, and I eventually saw a lot of things on the internet talking about gluten and how a lot of people have digestive issues with gluten. And, these are some of the symptoms and this is what it might look like. And I'm thinking, I might fall into that category. So I've already tried cutting other things out of my diet. I guess I'm okay with losing the freedom of all of these other things. We'll just let it go and we'll see what happens. And so I went gluten-free. And in doing that, I hit the other carbs really, really hard because we're ingrained at a very young age. This is your food pyramid and you follow this pyramid, and the bottom of that pyramid is those grains. And now I didn't know what carbs were at the time. I didn't know that grains were carbs, so to speak. I mean, a carb was not in my dictionary at all. So I hit the grains really hard. I thought if I'm taking out wheat, I have to have everything else. So I'm going to have rice. I'm going to have millet. I'm going to, all the things that I could have that were gluten-free. I was incorporating them in my diet, making sure I was healthy, especially because this was after I had been, let's see, I think I went gluten-free and then I got pregnant and then I was scared to be pregnant gluten-free. Okay.
Oh,
Because I was like, we have to have wheat in our diet. It says on that food pyramid. So I brought the wheat back in while I was pregnant and was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And after I gave birth, and I thought, okay, we're going to settle things back down. We're going to take the gluten back out. It's okay for me to be unhealthy and not have these things in my diet if it makes me feel better, but it's not okay for my kids, like that's where my brain was. So I had to have it while I was pregnant. I was done breastfeeding and all that. And I thought, okay, I'll bring the wheat back in or I'll bring the gluten-free back in. I'll take the wheat back out. And so I went gluten-free again. I did it the same way I did before. And lots of sugar with this as well, because I've always loved anything sugary, cupcakes, cookies, candies, whatever. So I was making a gluten-free version of those as well. And then when I got pregnant with my second son, I thought, maybe I can just keep the wheat out. And I actually stayed gluten-free and I did, really well doing that. But a few years later, I was in my 30s finally. I hit my 30s And I thought, I haven't been to the doctor in years, and maybe it's time to get some blood work done. Like maybe it's time to just kind of look at it. I'm growing up, I'm an adult now. Like let's just see what's going on. And so I made an appointment, and I thought I'm pretty healthy. I mean, I was a little heavier than I wanted to be, but I've always had a pretty small frame, so I didn't look that heavy. And I went to the doctor, I had the blood work done, and I thought everything's going to be fine. And then the nurse called me back and she's like, you know what? Your triglycerides are getting awfully high. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, that means you need to lay off the carbs, like stop eating the carbs. And so that was my moment of like, what the heck are carbs? Like, what are you talking about? And so I had to do my research. And then it was just like, you have those moments in your life where you have flashbacks and you're like, oh my gosh, my whole life just flashed before my eyes. Well, my brain did that with all of the gluten-free products I was having and like all of the sugar. And of course, I was having like, potatoes, all the starchy vegetables and all the things. And we ate a lot of it, like a lot of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been told so many times I need to cut things out of my diet. And here we go again. Like, and this is everything. This is everything I eat, like everything I eat. And so I was like, all right, we'll see if we can wrap our heads around it. And so I'm looking up low carb recipes and all this. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing keto. And I'm like, what is keto? When I was gluten free, I was seeing keto recipes and I was not making them because they were gluten free. And that's why I always stumbled upon them. But they always had these weird, what I thought were artificial sweeteners. I didn't know what sugar alcohols were and all that. So I was like, okay, there's weird artificial sweeteners and they're really high in fat. Like, why would I do this? Because like I'm told not to eat the fat and all this. So I never tried any of those. Had I learned back then what keto was when I was just trying to be gluten-free, oh my gosh, like every single recipe was gluten-free. I could have had breaded chicken using pork rinds. You know what I mean? Like there were ways around all of these things. And if I had known that fat was good for me, I would have probably accidentally been keto for years just because I was looking for gluten-free recipes. But I was scared because nobody said, this is what keto is. This is, like, this is what it does to your body. And so when I'm finding it now, as I'm told to lay off these carbs and I'm researching and I'm reading and I'm like, this sounds too good to be true. Like, this sounds like the miracle drugs they try to sell you. And I'm trying to work this out. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, there is no way. Like, it's like they're trying to sell me a pill and I'm trying to find the catch because I'm like, they're not selling me anything. They're just telling me to drop these foods, but there's something wrong with this. I should not be able to have these things and weight loss just happen and my health just turn around and all these things. So I'm like, it sounds too good to be true, but you know what? We've cut things out in the past. We can cut things out again. And worst case scenario, I try it and I don't like it and we'll see what happens. But by golly, I'm going to get these triglycerides down. Like that was my goal. So I thought, I don't believe weight loss is going to happen. Like there's no way. That's too good to be true. But we're doing this for these triglycerides. So we're going to jump on board and we're going to do this. And I had my husband jump on board with me because I was already supposed to have him on a lower carb diet, but I did not understand what that was. So I was still feeding him like rice and sweet potatoes and oatmeal, and they're heart healthy.
Yeah.
They're heart healthy. You got to have them. So I had that aha moment with him and thought, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm such a butthole. Like I was feeding you these things and I shouldn't have been. I'm sorry. So he jumped on it with me and we started keto. And I'm telling you, like, I could not believe how much better I felt. I mean, within weeks. And I was keto for almost an entire year. And in that time, I think I only had maybe, comparing it to a time when I was having what they were considering IBS flare-ups 2, 3, 4 times a week to like multiple times a day. to being keto for almost an entire year. And I think I might have had, I'm going to guess on the high end and say maybe 5 flare-ups that entire year.
Wow.
So it was an incredible difference. And then when I shifted over to carnivore, and the whole reason I went carnivore wasn't because I thought, I mean, eventually I thought it's going to be healthier, but I started looking at carnivore recipes because I was obsessing over lowering the carbs on keto. And there's something about being in the keto headspace of, like, I can have this many carbs a day, and I'm still looking for those things. Like I said, I was doing the gluten-free cookies and the gluten-free cakes and muffins and all those things. So being keto, you have your keto versions of these things, but they do have higher carbs in them. They're the higher end of, but if you're making it yourself, you know what's in it. You know it's better than getting a product that says keto slapped on the label, and you can, work it out and see how many carbs you're getting. But I was getting to the point where I was obsessing about how many carbs I can have in a day, and can those carbs include this muffin today, or can these carbs include like this sandwich that has this bread? And I was really doing the math and really trying to, and I'm thinking, this is kind of obsessive. This is a little crazy. And so I started finding recipes for like carnivore bread to be able to make sandwiches. So then I didn't have the almond flour and all that in there. And, that was, my way to do this. And then I was just looking for avenues to have my delicious keto meals just with lower carbs. And eventually, through all of this, I mean, I've been watching Dr. Ken Berry, and he always talks about just turning that dial down on your carbs, just constantly turning it down a little more and just see how you feel. And he, of course, he's carnivore, and he used to be keto and he went carnivore, and he talked about all the benefits of being carnivore, and that, not everyone needs to be carnivore, but he highly recommends you try it out and everything. And I had it in my mind, and I thought, I've been making these carnivore recipes and they've been great. I've really enjoyed them. And, I have had some issues with my stomach a few times. Like, it's been tremendously better, but I have had the issues here and there. And I lost my train of thought. Sorry. So yeah, so I was having the idea to, kind of go into the carnivore, and then, I was still having like the skin issues. Like, my skin issues had cleared up a little bit, but they were still definitely there. I was still having my dry scalp, and my ears had cleared up a lot, but I had the issue on and off here and there. And I thought, maybe if I go carnivore, it's going to help the skin issues too, because that is one thing he always talked about, was everyone that said, what can I do about this issue or this issue that always pertained to skin? He always said, try going carnivore, 30, 60, or 90 days. And I thought, here we go again. We've already cut things out a million times in our life. What's one more, experiment? Let's just cut it out. I'm feeling like a pro at this point. Like, I can do it. I know I can. So I was like, all right, we're going to do this. We're just going to go ahead and give it a try. And so that's what I did. I, thought, here we go. And I think I might have started with the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I think that's what it was a BBB&E challenge. And so I thought, all right, let's do this. And I jumped on board with it. And I think the most appealing part of it was Dr. Berry always said, you don't need to count your carbs. You don't need to count your calories. You don't need to count anything, especially on the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, because it's very fatty meat centric. So you're already focused on having that fat in there with that protein. So there's nothing to count. Just follow the guidelines, go with beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. You're going to be fine. And so, eat however many times a day you need to eat until you're full, and just go from there and just follow your own hunger cues. And I thought, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to tighten things up, make it a lot more strict, but it's so I can relax my brain, because my brain is so caught up on how many carbs can I have? Can I have this today? Can I have this today? And I don't want to think about it anymore. I just want to be relaxed. And it was the most relaxing time I have ever had. Like, just fix delicious food when I'm hungry and eat it and be so full. And I'm telling you, if there's anyone out there that has never tried carnivore, I seriously recommend it for a month, at least a month. with the really high fat, because there is this very, very strange euphoric feeling you get in that very first month. And I mean, that's the only way I can describe it, is euphoric. I mean, I felt like I was on drugs after I ate half the time. I mean, I would eat and just be like, oh, my world is blown. Like, this is a whole different experience. And I had already been keto for a year, so you wouldn't think that the benefits would be that vastly different. But I mean, my brain was, I just felt everything switched to a whole another level. My digestive issues had cleared up. I mean, I do not have those issues anymore that I used to have. Like, it's a completely different level of living. Like, it's just been wonderful.
That's amazing. Wow, what an amazing story. We have very similar stories as far as that mental health piece goes, and feeling that difference between going, yeah, I was keto for 2 years before, but taking that step to carnivore and having the stress drop out, the anxiety drop out, and you just feel so much better is such a cool experience. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I wish more people would try it, even if they are in the low carbohydrate space or keto space as well. I want to go back. I've got a question about the food list that you were given that sounds somewhat arbitrary and not really all that helpful. Did they say anything about fiber? Were they like pro fiber, trying to get more fiber into your diet?
I'm going to tell you, I think there was very minimal information at this time. Get some water. I think, honestly, at the time, and I really think even now, irritable bowel syndrome for a doctor, if you go to the doctor, I don't think they really have a solution for it. They may have something now, I don't know, but I really think that's one of those things where they're like, well, you have issues, but I don't know what to do about it. So when I went to the doctor then, and it was like 20 years ago. So they gave me this list, and it was pretty much like I said, they tried to just blame it on stress. And I was like, no, I've had it for years. And they're like, okay, well, look at this list. And they didn't say anything outright about fiber. They didn't, I mean, they said the dairy, which can be inflammatory. And honestly, the reason I keep dairy out now is less about stomach issues than other issues I have with it. So that really wasn't even the root of the cause. Weird things like bananas, and then like the iceberg lettuce. Now, I do know that iceberg lettuce is hard on a lot of people. That's probably the worst lettuce you could possibly get. So I can say, okay, that was fine being on the list. I wish I had the list today. I do not remember any processed food being on that list at all.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right. I don't remember that. I remember happily thinking, I can still eat Oreos.
That's the first food I was thinking of, was like Oreos.
Yeah, like I have one of those memories. You know how you get core happy memories growing up and you're like, my world is great. I have core memories of like distress, okay, through these times that like were really horrible. And a plate of Oreos and a glass of milk are one of those core memories for me. I literally passed out from the pain and was just unconscious. Like that's
Wow.
like the core memories, right? Like this is what I look back on and go, that's a hard no. I'm not going back to that. Like it's a hard no. But that's what I was thinking at the time. I'd never tried cutting out anything that was processed. I didn't think there was anything wrong with anything processed, and I just knew that, it might not have made my stomach feel good when I ate it, but it sure did make my brain light up. It made me feel happy. I was like, oh, these are great. I love these. So there wasn't anything processed on that list that I can remember. They didn't say anything really about anything dietarily being good or bad. There was no guidance. There was no, let's talk to a dietitian and see, because you're having digestive issues, if there's anything. So it was literally, here's a list and good luck to you. And it wasn't even, I'm pretty sure seed oils were on the list. And I know those give me issues. I mean, nobody knew what seed oils were at the time, so it's just been a very, very long, slow process of trial and error and see what works and what doesn't work. And again, had I known what keto was when I started looking for gluten-free stuff, which was way after that list and trying to settle things down, and I was still having issues, but had I stumbled upon it and tried a keto recipe, understanding what it was, I would have realized I felt great after it. And then I probably would have made more, and I would have ended up on this journey without, going through years and years and years of trouble that I did.
Such a waste.
I
Such a waste.
know.
Uh, yeah, okay. So it's interesting. It's such a weird kind of paradox because everybody already knows that fiber is really good for you, but anybody can do this. I told people this recently. Go to Google right now, type in who is a low fiber diet recommended for, and you'll see a list of about 10 digestive issues, including IBS, that a low fiber diet should be recommended for people who have these digestive conditions. So first of all, could that also be the cause if you need a low fiber diet to resolve these things? And secondly, like you see that on Google and it's recommended, but I would be very willing to bet that most doctors are not aware of that and they just assume that more fiber is better. Yeah, the patients are not getting that message.
I completely agree with that because, like I said, being keto, I was still having a few flare-ups here and there. I was having fiber on a keto diet. And so when I had the flare-ups, it was usually after, say, a salad or, something like that. So raw vegetables. Now I usually made my own dressing, but it's possible if I ate out and had a salad, it's possible that I had like seed oils in the salad dressing or something. So that could have flared me up. But making the switch over to carnivore, there's no more fiber in there. And I have been fine. I have not had, any issues whatsoever without that fiber in it. I went my entire keto still not knowing that I could go without fiber. Even with knowing I'm resolving these issues, there's a lot less fiber on keto, but I did not ever factor in the fiber thing at all. And then even even being on carnivore, you go on vacation and sometimes you'll kind of loosen things up to have fun with the family and all that. And so a couple of years ago, we went to the beach. And so my loosening things up is I was like, okay, well, I'll have some nuts while we're on this vacation. We've got like some cashews and things that, we brought. And I was like, I'll have some nuts, and that's bringing some fiber back in there and everything. And I didn't have an IBS flare up, but I definitely had issues with my digestion. I was like, I cannot handle this. So it was once again a hard line. Like I see them, they're delicious. I miss them. I would love to be able to have them. Like they were fantastic, but I do not need them because again, I don't want to live my life in a bathroom. Like that's not a quality of life. So I'd rather be out in the world experiencing it. And I don't do it anymore. My kids enjoy it. I will buy, macadamia nuts and cashews and things for them. And my husband enjoys it. And I'm like, y'all enjoy it. And I'm a really weird person that I don't have to taste it anymore to like be a part of the fun. But I'm like, I want to smell what they're eating. Like,
Nice.
like I'll get the nuts out and I can like smell what they're having or like peanut butter, things like that. Or my kids will, they'll be like, oh, I don't buy them, I don't buy them the cookies and the highly processed foods and all that, but they do earn money from doing chores and stuff and they can use it on whatever they want. So if they choose to go buy some snacks from the store, they understand I didn't buy that for them. That was their choice to make with their own money. They're at the point where they realize how they feel after they have it. And as long as they're making that connection and they understand, like, I can spend my money on this and this is my treat for myself. Oh, I feel like garbage afterwards, but I enjoyed it at the time and I did it on my own. And they know that I'm not doing it because I know it makes them feel bad. I'm okay with it. So they'll go get like some candy or cookies or something or a little snack cake or something. And I'm like, oh, I want to smell it. You have to let me smell it before you eat it. And so that's what I do. Instead of being like, here, mom, have a bite. They'll open it. Here, mom, smell what I'm eating. And so I'll get a whiff of it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I remember that smell. Like it doesn't smell how I remember. It's not as good. I know it's not going to taste as good as what I remember, but I feel a part of things because I'm smelling all the sweet little things that they're getting to try. But I have zero temptation to eat it myself. It's just, it's just kind of fun to be a part of what they're experiencing.
Nice. That's a really funny strategy. I love that. One of my favorite memes about carnivores, and it's making fun of us, so I think it's funny, but it shows in the one square like, yeah, I'm carnivore, raw. And then the second square, it goes, oh, I ate a piece of bread, my back hurts. And it's like making fun of us for being kind of fragile as far as digestion goes. But it's really true. Like once you eliminate some of these things, the effect really hits you a lot harder. I remember you and Steven talking a little bit about that, where you're almost like encourage people to, try a cheat every now and again, just to remind yourself like these foods were never that good for you. And you'll do a lot better cutting them out completely and keeping them out.
I definitely think so. And I think like, I don't even think it's that we're more fragile now, like with our digestion. I just think that we feel so good. Like once you're living in a situation and you're there for a long time, that's your status quo. That's what you're used to. So when you live in the standard American diet, you feel normal. That's your status quo. Like, you don't realize that sleeping till noon and getting up and being like, man, my back hurts because like I'm not in my 20s anymore, so I've got a backache and my knee is kind of sore and my hip doesn't feel great and I got a headache again. But that's normal. That's everyday life. It's day to day. Like you just roll with it. I'm an adult now. This is what I have to do. Like I have to get over it. So the people that have never tried keto or have never tried carnivore to feel this other level, they're still feeling bad. So when they have these things, they just feel a little worse than they feel now. They don't feel much different. They're still feeling it. They just are used to feeling it. Whereas we felt just as bad as they did. We may have felt worse because we made these drastic changes to get things to a better place, but now we have been feeling amazing. Like we feel like superheroes. We've never felt this level of good in our lives. And a lot of us came to this way of eating because we felt so bad. Like, I mean, our health it was not status quo bad like most people. It was like in the gutters, horrible. And that's how desperate we were to make a change, is we literally took everything out of our diet and are just living off of meat. What is wrong with us? And we get to this place and we feel amazing every single day. And we wake up and we're not hurting. And we wake up early. We wake up before our alarm clock goes off. And we wake up with energy and we get all these things done. And then like we've crossed off our whole list and it's only noon. And before it was like we were just waking up and now we're like, God, now I got all these other things I can do. Like, so what are we, and you just go and it's endless and you have all of this energy until you hit the bed at night. And then you go to bed and you're out until you magically wake up to this energy that you don't know where it came from. Like it's this incredible feeling. You just feel good.
Yep.
And so when we feel bad, we feel bad. Like we're not used to feeling bad anymore. We love this cloud nine we're living on. So when we do try these things and, maybe we accidentally mess up the first time, it's not an accident after that because we realize how much it sucks.
Seriously.
Yeah. But
Seriously.
that first time it's like, oh, I messed up and I don't like this. Doesn't feel good. And, I don't want to do that anymore. But sometimes, I mean, it's kind of part of the process because you know how great you feel. And then once you've messed up, you know how bad you're going to feel if something affects you badly. So it's almost like I now have a test. Like, say there's something I really want to have because I just don't eat it anymore. Like I miss it. It was such a great thing. And maybe a spoonful of honey is not that bad. There's lots of people that eat honey, I mean, there's, the people that do the animal based and they'll have the honey and the higher carb fruit and all that. Go try it. You now have this baseline to know how amazing you feel. And if it's going to affect you negatively, go into it honestly. Don't lie to yourself because you miss it and it tasted so good, because I'm sure that sugary sweetness tastes amazing. But be honest with yourself. Like if it makes you feel like crap, be honest and say, this makes me feel like crap. That doesn't mean you can't eat it again. If you're okay enjoying it and feeling like crap, go for it, but be honest with yourself,
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. Like it's the really great health compared to the really bad feelings you get when you eat the things that throw you off, it's a really good indicator of, does this help me or does it not? Because I enjoy feeling like a superhero. That's where I want to be.
Yeah. Well said. I brought this up a lot recently as well, but Amy Berger at the last COSI conference I was at, she gave a presentation, and I loved her message. She said keto should help you. This should be helpful for you. This is not to make your life miserable and track everything and eat foods that you don't enjoy. Like, this should be a good thing. Make it for yourself. Like, if you can handle something, eat it. If not, then don't. Like, make it for yourself. It's not to make your life more miserable. It's to make your life better. So it is that mindset shift that we were talking about earlier. And I do want to ask you, I ask all parents this, I think this is fascinating. With your kids, are they suffering? Are they struggling? Do they hate it? Do they miss the cake and the bread and all these other things? Or do they really not hate it that much?
I'm going to tell you, it was, they didn't notice what was happening when the changes happened because they have always eaten what we eat. We have never been a family that says, mom and dad are eating this and you guys are getting chicken nuggets. Like, it's never about their palate and what they want. It's, hey, we think we're feeding you the right things. You need to eat what we put in front of you. Now, if you don't like it, I'm not going to force you to eat it, but I also need you to understand you're not going to starve to death. Like, like, eat a few bites. If you're not, like, if it's not your thing, like, I get it, but just go on. That's been the same with any food we had even before being keto. We've always, we eat as a family, we make the same meals. That's what we do. So transitioning into the keto meals, it wasn't a big change for them because I was already cooking home cooked meals and they were used to that. Now the big issue came with the transition of mom is no longer letting us have bags of chips and cookie, like all the extra things. So like I said, outside of the house, I do let them have that. My younger son likes to pack his lunch for school. So he likes sandwiches a lot. So I know keto bread is not the best, but he has keto bread on his sandwiches. It's better than, the other. He does get a bag of chips. Like, he does get the regular standard things that most kids get, but he also gets yogurt. He also gets usually sliced cucumbers. That's his favorite. So he gets, like a low carb fruit or veg or whatever, maybe berries, maybe nuts, things like that. But he feels like he fits in. So he still has the things the other kids get and he feels included, but it's not as bad as it could be. My other son prefers to get his lunch from school. So I know he is getting a high carb, garbagey lunch. So they're kind of both right there. They're not getting the greatest lunch, but I know in the morning for breakfast, they will have something, fantastic. And I know for dinner, they're going to have something fantastic. And if they go with their own money and get something, they know they can do that. So I thought it was going to be hard. The snack stuff was kind of a fight because my older son is like, he loves snack foods, just loves it. And he was a heavier child, being a younger child. He was on the heavier side and they were really watching him when we would go to the doctor and all that. But when we switched over to keto, we switched over. It was the same time that he was going through that change where you're going from like little child to stretching out into adolescence, and you get taller and leaner and all that. And it all switched out at the same time. So he was going with the lower carb and the healthier fats and more protein and, less of the garbage stuff and all that. And he did want to fight with us a little bit on wanting snack food and all that, but he learned very quickly how good he feels eating these keto meals. And so on multiple vacations we have gone on where he's not getting his keto meals, because he's a little foodie. He loves to eat out. He loves to order at restaurants. And he likes to watch cooking shows, and he will literally do the whole like judging the food thing the way food critics do. Like, he's got his whole thing. So he loves food. So we go on vacation and he loves it because he's like, we're eating out every night. I got this. This is going to be great. Usually about 3 to 4 days into a vacation, he will say, I can't wait till we get home and get back on these keto meals. And I'm like, this is coming from a child. Like
Yeah.
everyone is so scared their kids are going to rebel and not do. And I'm just thinking like, I hate to say like, don't give them a choice because it's kind of like, well, you're how like they're people too. They should have a choice. No, I get that. You're their parent though. Like this is their nutrition. Don't give them the choice. They're going to eat it. They're going to be, if they don't eat it, they're not hungry. You know, if they're hungry, they're going to eat it. Most of the times, they're really going to enjoy it. My younger son's pretty picky. So there's a few things he won't eat. But for the most part, I know like he's usually not going to turn down a protein. You know, I can give him, he doesn't like steak so much, but like ground beefs and chicken and pork chops and he loves bacon. You know, all these things, even hot dogs, like these things that, I mean, I know people are like, oh, hot dogs are horrible. And I'm thinking, I'm okay with the hot dog. Like it's, it's not that bad. I mean, as long as it's not like a 10 carb hot dog, you know, like we buy ones that's like 1 carb per link and he doesn't have a huge appetite. He eats 1 link, you know, and you know, I'm like, that's good. That's fine. He'll eat that and maybe some cucumbers or maybe some cheese and he's happy. Like he's fine. So if he doesn't like what we're having, he usually doesn't eat the vegetables that I cook for my husband and my other son. And so I'm like, that's fine. And I just kind of joke with him. I'm like, other parents say, eat your vegetables. Mommy's never going to tell you, eat that vegetable. Like, it's
Good.
fine. Eat the meat. As long as you eat the meat, I'm a happy camper. I don't care. So, you know, they've been thriving on it. They've been doing amazing. And I really don't see issues. I still let them have birthday cake on their birthdays, you know, like you know, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Like they're not having health issues that we're fighting, you know, to keep them on this path. Now, I know there's some that are on, you know, ketogenic diets for other reasons. And, you know, you do have to be more strict with that. But just to get your family in a healthy place, it's not all or nothing, you know, keep keep the keto most of the time and have the treat when life warrants it, you know, but it's not an everyday thing.
I love that. I absolutely love that approach as well. And that is very consistent from almost anybody I've ever asked about that. But like the kids prefer it. And I speculate about myself going back if I would have offered that to myself as a teenager to know that I could be in better shape and play sports better and not have acne and, you know, whatever. Like if I would have gone back to 14, 15-year-old you and said, hey, that we can help your skin and digestive issues by eating this certain way, I'll bet you would have taken that offer up and you probably would have been able to implement it, you know?
I think back on this all the time and I'm like, man, I wish I could go back and for 1 year be a teenager again, just for 1 year and eat this way and just see how different life felt. Because like if if I could have got this, not even health related issues, this is not even digestive related. If I could have made it through the day in school without my stomach growling, that was so
Exactly.
embarrassing to be in class and your stomach just, roars. And you're like, I have 2 more periods before lunch. I can't make it. Like that alone would have been worth it. But on top of that, being a teenage girl with all of the changes in the hormones, all the things that were happening, body image issues that you're fighting and all that, and then my digestive issues on top of it. If I had known that I could have eaten this way and had known that it could look just like the way I eat now, I mean, to anybody who doesn't know and just sees you eating your meals, they, you know, unless you're in a restaurant having to specifically ask for things, people don't notice. They don't know. You're just eating. And that would have been amazing. Like that would have been absolutely amazing to just to make it without a stomach growl. Like that just, I always think back on that. I'm like, I remember sitting in science class and my stomach just growling and being so embarrassed. Like who else's stomach is growling right now? Like
That's so funny. You're reminding me of one of my most embarrassing moments where I was doing, where like my buddies were showing off like push-ups in front of a group of girls, and I went down in a push-up and I farted, and I hadn't even made. It was so mortifying. Everybody left, and like I was just like sitting there face down, like what have I done? But yeah, it's the first time thinking like, well, carnivore. Like little carnivore teenager Casey, that would have never happened, and I would not have been traumatized from that. would have gone a lot better for me later in life.
And that cracks me up because that is like, I think that is the most questioned thing from non-carnivores. There's no way you don't have gas. And it's like, the only time I get gas is like when I slip up and eat things that I shouldn't eat. Like if I decide I'm gonna have, like some berries, something like that, or like sugar-free chocolate. Every now and again, I'll have some sugar-free chocolate. And I'm like, I can only have one because I know if I have more than one, like the gas is gonna come right back. And I much prefer a gasless, smellless life, you
Totally.
know?
Totally. Oh my goodness. Well, Holly, this has been an amazing conversation. I love not only that you've gone through this journey and not only that you're willing to share the journey on social media, but you're also making it very practical for people and opening a lot of doors for people. And your recipes look incredible. I would encourage all the listeners to go to all the tags that we'll have in the links to be sure to follow you and subscribe to you and get your wonderful content. It's such a fun topic to discuss. I see so much passion in this field and people that are just so willing to put in a lot of work to share their message and help people understand that they can be healed from a lot of the things that you had to go through. You can't go back, unfortunately, to your teenage self and offer that, but you can pay this message forward, which you're doing amazingly. And I just really appreciate you and your work and appreciate your time to be on our show today. Where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
Really, X, I am the most prominent over there. And that would be at Carnivore Friend. I'm on Instagram at Friendly Neighborhood Carnivore, and I am on YouTube at Friendly Neighborhood Carnivore.
Awesome. Like I said, we'll link to all of that in the show notes so people can find that. And yeah, you're just doing such a great job again, sharing the message, but making it very accessible for people and making it look absolutely delicious and easy. It occurs to me, one of the things you said earlier, like I wish people would understand that yes, we eat this way because we're dealing with certain things and this is a way for us to heal and heal anxiety. But also we get a little bit lazy and this is such an easy thing to do, and your meal prep is so much better and takes way less time and it's so much easier to fast. And yeah, it's a wonderful lifestyle, and you're showing that and sharing that around and making it really accessible to people. So thank you so very much for all of your work, Holly, and thank you for taking time to be on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
It was awesome. It was a great conversation, and this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.